AI Business School empowers business leaders to lead with confidence in the age of AI.
I really encourage you to be open and curious about AI, about its impacts, about its possibilities.
AI Business School is a series designed to help organizations address the opportunities and challenges when adopting AI. Featuring perspectives from industry leaders successfully embracing AI.
Start small. So think in the use cases that are most important for your organization.
Talks on AI business value and practical guides to help you define your strategy.
AI can and will substantially improve our collective efficiencies on both supply and demand planning.
Learnings and insights from leaders who are driving and fostering an AI-ready culture.
Defining the clinical and business and technical success criteria upfront is really paramount.
And an inside look at Microsoft's AI evolution.
We needed to build confidence in our leadership and our people that the adoption of these tools was going to actually make them better at their job.
And AI governance models.
How do we build and use AI systems that create a positive impact on individuals and society? These are the issues that are fundamental for organizations.
Designed to move at the speed of business, AI Business School is on demand, easy to consume, and available now. In the age of AI, how will you lead?
Hello, everyone. I am so excited to speak with you today about the value of building an AI-powered organization and how it can make a real difference for you now and well into the future. And I just have to take a moment to share that this is my first virtual keynote. I know so many of us are adapting to new ways of working these days, but I'm actually speaking to you from my home in Washington State. And for the record, I don't own a green screen. But by using a Microsoft Kinect camera and a deep learning AI program, we created this virtual 3D environment and took a room in my house that actually looks like this and turned it into this. Cool breakthroughs like this are energizing, but even more than that, it's reflective of how human ingenuity gets ignited when we're faced with new challenges that require us to think differently. And it's the same kind of ingenuity that I've observed meeting with so many business leaders around the world across every industry. I'm always struck by how passionate business leaders are about delivering products and services that are meaningful to your customers and inspiring and rallying your employees around a common mission and encouraging them to innovate and embrace technology in a way that builds durable organizations that are successful for the long term. But now we're faced with an unprecedented situation. And the pressure is enormous to answer tough questions like, how do you continue to serve your customers, motivate your employees, and steer your organizations when this level of change has happened virtually overnight? Decisions we make today not only impact how our organizations can recover, but also impact how quickly we can get them back to growth. This is clearly a time when you're focusing on what's absolutely business critical and looking to capture those opportunities that truly make a difference. The time to make AI work for you and put it into action is now. Putting AI into action in your business is powerful, whether you want to quickly react to unanticipated circumstances, maintain business continuity, serve your customers in new ways, or optimize core processes. Let me share a few ways AI is driving businesses forward. There's 3 scenarios where we're seeing a huge surge of activity around making AI real. And the first is AI for business process optimization, where there's a critical need for more flexibility and agility. The second is AI to help with employee productivity, especially as people's jobs have gotten more complex with more to take care of. And the third is AI to help with customer service in a time of few resources, yet with customers needing more help than ever and looking for more proactive anticipation of their needs. Starting with business process optimization. When it comes to using AI to streamline business processes, many companies are finding, especially in these times, that their processes are not as agile as they need them to be. They're looking to find efficiencies, reduce costs, and ultimately generate revenue. In the manufacturing space, companies like Paramount Glass that have fixed costs that are highly sensitive to fluctuations in demand are using AI for real-time monitoring and to unlock insights that help with detecting anomalies and defects in their products to improve their product quality and production efficiency. The approach they've taken has helped them reduce defects by 5%, which is translated into more predictable delivery timelines for their customers. In the case of employee productivity, more companies than ever are using AI to help with increasing productivity as well as creativity, and to optimize the precious time their employees do have to focus on things like expanding customer engagement or improving business results. Some of the most successful employee productivity projects we've seen are based on scenarios that move from manual, rule-based systems to human-supervised automated engines. At Reuters, it's essential that they serve their readers with the most interesting content. And they're doing that using an AI-powered recommendation engine that matches relevant videos to articles. And with this approach, Reuters has been able to increase total video views by 4%, while also driving the average completion rate above 80%. And taking employee productivity to the next level is all about providing skilled users the tools they need to collaborate with machines in new ways. Microsoft's Autonomous Systems platform gives engineers the ability to use AI to teach machines and help work teams optimize their operations. National Oil Well Varco is using machine teaching to reduce costs by limiting machine downtime. So now, experienced machinists are training industrial control systems with AI, enabling them to focus on higher priority tasks, while operators with less experience can focus on other operations. And finally, AI for customer service enables true end-to-end customer management, all the way from customer support and lead routing to sales, real-time behavior prediction. By combining a CRM system with machine learning and conversational AI, bots are dramatically changing user experiences and giving back business insights that enable you to wow your customers. And now, more than ever, airlines, public service agencies, and many other companies are facing an overwhelming amount of calls from customers. We see more organizations turning to AI to be able to immediately respond and deliver quick impact for their customers, their patients, and citizens. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic, organizations in the United States, Europe, and Middle East have been using the Microsoft Healthcare bot to quickly respond to patients, giving them access to verified and validated information, helping to reduce the load on doctors and nurses. And since March, public service and health organizations have created over 1,200 COVID-19 self-assessment bots, reaching over 18 million individuals based on the Microsoft Healthcare bot service. AI capabilities can vastly improve how you serve your customers, how you focus on core operations, and how you build agility into your business processes. But the few examples I just shared begin to scratch the surface of the ways organizations are putting AI into action with innovative solutions for specific scenarios. The real differentiated value creation and the durable lasting impact really happens when you embrace this notion of building what we call a truly AI-powered organization. Because putting AI into action is the most effective and life-changing when you strategically scale its impact across the entire business. And to do this, it requires a mindset that embraces this idea that AI can fundamentally change what's possible for you to achieve with your employees and your organization. And so what do I mean by an AI-powered organization? Because there's a few dimensions. First, AI-powered organizations make decisions in new ways, where insights from large sets of data fuel more predictive, more accurate, and more productive results. Secondly, AI-powered organizations embody a special company culture, one that is data-driven and curious and seriously commits to the responsible use of AI. And lastly, AI-powered organizations deliberately put AI in the hands of every employee, not just their technical people, but those with domain expertise, those closest to the business functions, so they can bring their unique skills to bear, no matter where the data happens to sit in your organization, which supports better decision-making. Making the shift to become an AI-powered organization could be one of the most pivotal decisions you make. As parts of the world emerge into what will be the new normal, in this period of change, business leaders have a rare vantage point where you see what's absolutely core to your business, and you can re-examine previous, perhaps less agile approaches and redirect your company's energy to shape what's possible now. As you envision what's possible for your organization, it's critical to prioritize where and what you want to invest your energy on. Take the time to get super clear on the strategic imperatives across the entire company. It's so important to connect and collaborate with other leaders in your company to create a connected, not siloed vision and a coordinated plan. It is super expensive, we all know, to experiment with projects or multiple proofs of concept with limited application or ROI. So be super selective about where teams should be spending their time. The old adage, to slow down in order to speed up, has never been more true than when it comes to defining the right AI strategy. My team and I have spent the past couple of years crisscrossing the world, working closely with business leaders, AI experts, and professionals, and having deeply candid conversations about their experiences, about what worked, and quite frankly, what didn't as they began using and rolling out AI. We learned a lot about what processes actually helped accelerate AI adoption, but most importantly, we wanted to share these valuable learnings with everyone to help you avoid the pitfalls. And in a nutshell, that's why we created AI Business School. It's our free, highly popular online masterclass series designed to help you think through what you need to do in terms of strategy, culture, responsible AI, and technology to set yourself and your org up for success. Since launching AI Business School about a year ago, already over 1 million people have already gone through it, watching the exec interviews, reading case studies, and downloading the tools and guides that we've made available in the business school. Most, if not all, organizations are going to be reevaluating their plans for 2020 and beyond. These valuable lessons from leaders and the insights available in AI Business School are more relevant than ever. And now is a great time to identify your critical path and understand how AI fits with your business model and capabilities. Kirsten Moody, Chief Data and Analytics Officer for State Farm, has a unique perspective on this. So let's hear what she has to say.
At State Farm, we're very clear and we're very strict with ourselves to make sure that the work we're doing in artificial intelligence is aligned and embedded with a business strategy as well as an execution plan for positive transformation within the business, which means that we're thinking not only about the artificial intelligence, but the change impact on the business process, the employees, and the surrounding and enabling technology systems. We're really reshaping individual and organizational mindsets about the role of AI in our business. And what this really means is that we're redrawing the line between what the computer or the machine can do best and what people can do best. And when you redraw that line, you have to recalibrate your processes, you need to recalibrate how you educate and motivate your workforce, and you need to recalibrate how your technology systems are supporting the business and supporting your customers. So what we're really trying to accomplish with artificial intelligence are business outcomes And the way that we get that is by thinking about where we draw the line between what the computer can do best and what people can do best. And when you do that, you really start to harmonize the people and the computer for the best possible outcomes for the business.
As you heard from Kirsten, the alignment of strategic imperatives, AI capabilities, and employee motivation is what's helping to create AI value at State Farm. A powerful example is how they've used AI and machine learning, greatly reducing the time to settle an auto damage claim from 15 days to as little as 30 minutes, which is a win-win for both the business and for their customers. Ultimately, the companies that are the most successful with AI focus on use cases that not only align to the strategic goals of the company, but they also match the technical solution to the skills and capabilities that fit within the maturity level of their own organization. Following strategic clarity, another core lesson is around cultivating the right cultural mindset and how essential that is to driving success with AI. We've learned this on our own journey at Microsoft. And this lesson is underscored by the findings of a recent survey we conducted with over 10,000 employers and employees across the world. Companies who reported gaining the most value from AI in their organizations have prioritized communication, innovation, employee autonomy, and training to a much greater extent than companies who are struggling to extract value from their AI projects. From the learnings we've gathered, there are 4 key aspects to instilling what I call an AI-ready culture. First is organizations need to be data-driven, meaning they need to be able to reason over the entire data estate, no matter where the data resides. And they have to have the ability to access that data in real time across the organization so they can make decisions at unprecedented scale and speed. Secondly, it's about enabling and including all employees to participate, to contribute ideas, ask questions, so every layer of the organization is represented. Fostering an inclusive approach like this leads to more diverse ideas, better solutions, and more motivated employees. Third, leaders have an obligation around implementing AI responsibly and creating a responsible approach to AI that addresses the ethical challenges that AI presents. And last, it's so important that this mindset flows through every level of the organization, including leadership at the uppermost levels, because it needs to be ingrained into the fabric of how decisions are made and how employees are managed and rewarded. It is this marriage of cultural transformation with the adoption of technology that has a true force multiplier effect. And let's hear from one of our leaders at Microsoft who has learned this as her organization began rolling AI out.
When we thought about beginning our digital transformation journey, my leadership team and I got together and started talking about what needed to change. And as usual, we started with a list of the actual goals we had for the organization. Make forecasting more accurate. Could we use technology differently? But we quickly learned that the actual list of things we needed to make were about what cultural attributes we needed to build in our team. How are we going to make it important for each of our team members to get comfortable with new technology? How are we going to incent them to learn and not be afraid of moving forward with this process? And how are we going to motivate, have people be excited about learning, excited about the adoption of new and different ways of approaching problems? And so for me, when we look back, I realized that it was almost more important to realize the culture change you needed in the organization than it was to realize the business problems you were trying to solve. Because really what we needed was a motivated workforce, not just our leadership team or my direct reports, but every layer of the team needed to feel like they were going to be incented and be valued by their adoption of the technology, by the outputs that allowed them to have. Then we could let each of the teams be empowered to pick their goals. Whether that goal was around forecasting or credits or collections or using it in treasury teams or tax. It needed to be about really having your team say, I want to do this, I'm excited to do this, and I feel like by doing this, I'll be more valued by the organization.
As with culture, responsibility is core for successful AI adoption. We believe AI must be built in a way that earns trust. Responsible innovation starts by establishing principles that reflect your intentions, your values, your goals, in effect, the culture of your organization. And to make these principles real, they need to translate and evolve into practices that enable the management of the entire AI lifecycle at every step of development, along with a governance model that operationalizes responsible AI across all organizational functions. Then, to bring these practices to life, you need tools that detect bias in data, improve model transparency and explainability, which is critical in making decisions fully transparent. At Microsoft, we've been on this journey for some time, and we're committed to sharing our own learnings and guidance and tooling to help our customers and partners. For business leaders, I'll mention AI Business School again, which provides a host of resources and an entire module on responsible AI with information on tooling and recommended approaches. And for your technical teams who are developing and deploying AI, we recently launched the Responsible AI Resource Center, where practitioners have access to leading practices, tooling, and insights from AI experts from Microsoft, all in one place. And of course, as you work through the aspects of strategy, culture, and responsible AI, it's important to plan how you scale the AI technology across your entire organization. Fundamentally, that means rethinking right from the get-go with forethought how AI is developed and managed across the entire AI lifecycle, from design to development, training, deployment, monitoring. This requires a strong MLOps or machine learning operations practice. MLOps enables collaboration between data scientists, machine learning engineers, software developers, and other IT teams to manage the AI lifecycle, connecting it to the business more directly and ensuring that every step, every task in the cycle is defined with responsibility in mind right from the beginning, and at the scale and speed that's also required by your organization. In my experience, this is an area where I have found most customers expend the least amount of time, and it's one of the most important areas. A great example of a company that has put this approach into action is Translink, the transit agency for Vancouver, Canada. Translink built 18,000 AI models to predict accurate departure times. Imagine the complexity of managing that number of models. With the adoption of MLOps strategies, they vastly improved the accuracy of predicted departure times by 74% and reduced their average customer wait time by 50%. To help you discover best practices when it comes to managing development in your organization, I am so excited to announce that today we're releasing a brand new learning path in AI Business School that specifically addresses the practice of applying MLOps to your AI lifecycle, along with the frameworks and tools to help you manage your innovation practice and measure the success of your AI investments. Please check it out. I promise you'll be happy that you did. We've discovered that the key to unlocking success is to anticipate each element in this AI flywheel and to avoid falling into the dreaded AI adoption chasm, where we sometimes see companies get stuck in the incubation phase or proofs of concept purgatory, feeling like they're not in a position to deploy or scale their AI projects, which obviously limits their ability to get the value and level of innovation they're looking for to propel their business forward. To share more, I've invited Nick McGuire, Vice President of Enterprise Research at CCS Insights, to share his observations about how to avoid getting stuck in this gap.
We at CCS Insight have the pleasure of working with a large number of companies all over the world on their AI strategies, and we observe the market. We're constantly amazed by the level of growth we've seen in this area over the last 18 months. 75% or so of the businesses that we survey on an annual basis have some form of machine learning project happening inside their organization. This is up from 50% a year ago. But as the point that was made earlier, the vast majority of this activity is still highly experimental, meaning that companies do not yet have a lot of experience fully operationalizing AI and making it available to all employees in the organization. So what can make companies cross the chasm, if you like, and get out of this pilot purgatory that some companies have really struggled with? Well, we observed 3 key areas that kind of are key success factors for AI at the moment. The first, and this was a point that Mitra made earlier, and we fully agree with it, that companies that have a data-driven culture have a real significant chance of success. And this isn't just about decision-making, it's also about measuring success. And companies that apply business metrics to their ML projects, not just technical metrics, are also succeeding quite well. We also think that companies that look holistically across the organization, not just in pockets or indeed in domains of the business or focusing entirely on the customer, are also getting some good results. And then lastly, what we've observed is companies that have a strategic advisor, a trusted advisor that can help them not only apply the technology, but understand best practices and understand where the technology can actually really add value to their operational context, are the ones that are also winning in the market. So, we think these 3 areas are really, really important. But of course, we're in a very disruptive period of time at the moment. And as we look ahead into difficult economic times, and companies are really having to overhaul their IT strategies at the moment. So I think this means that AI itself and AI projects are probably going to go through some significant changes as well as we look forward over the next coming months and quarters. We're going to see companies probably not having enough time nor budget to run long-scale experiments or proof of concepts in AI anymore. This means that projects that can get to production fast, that are solving specific business problems, are going to become prioritized. We also think that companies are going to dial heavily around automation and process re-engineering. This is particularly acute in areas that have come under strain since the crisis emerged, areas like the contact center, manufacturing, supply chain environments as well. But lastly, one of the most important areas that we think is going to become critical over the coming months is that companies are really going to focus on responsible approaches to machine learning. We observed last year that the governance of AI actually became one of the most important criteria for investment that we've seen from companies in machine learning. And we think this is going to continue over the next 12 months. The bottom line is that companies are realizing that in this critical period, people's impressions are being shaped heavily, and the actions that companies take are going to become really significant. So companies are going to want to get AI right during this period of time. And this is going to bring a lot more attention on topics like ML ops, ML lifecycle management, and areas like bias and explainability moving forward. So all this to say that there's a lot of change happening in AI at the moment. But companies that are crossing the chasm are not only reacting the best in terms of the current situation, but we think are actually best placed to thrive in the future as we look forward as well. So with that, I want to thank you from London and much appreciate the time.
As Nick pointed out, those who focus on creating an AI-powered organization are more likely to scale and succeed with AI. And creating the level of momentum that requires means tapping into the talent of your employees in new ways. In the same survey I mentioned earlier, we found that 91% of employees want new skills that can help them succeed with using AI in their jobs. And on top of that, employees from AI-powered companies say they want to use AI more, and they report finding more meaning in their jobs when they do. To make the most of this potential, it's important to understand how every business function can move forward in innovative ways. And that means putting AI into the hands of every employee as a part of their daily work in ways that are meaningful and transformative. At Microsoft, we're very focused on the best ways we can help you put AI in the hands of every employee in every business function, because we believe that the true potential of AI is only realized when AI experiences are democratized for every single employee, from everyday business users to developers to field engineers to data scientists. We have a comprehensive platform of software and tools that helps quickly accelerate AI adoption, from ready-to-go, off-the-shelf products you can use today, all the way to advanced tools for precise customization depending on the unique needs and capabilities of your organization. For everyday employees and business users, Microsoft 365 has infused AI into familiar apps in user-friendly ways, so employees can improve personal productivity, streamline teamwork, and get help with daily decision-making. Business users can use the enterprise-ready, prepackaged AI solutions in Dynamics 365 for horizontal functions like sales and marketing and customer service. And we've democratized the creation and consumption of AI with our Power Platform. With Power Platform, you can go a step beyond ready-to-use AI and give everyone in your organization, regardless of their technical experience, the ability to create new AI applications without writing a single line of code. Users can build, train, publish, and run AI models using pre-built or customizable templates through a guided process right within the Power Platform and as an integral part of their daily work. And for those employees looking to create custom differentiated AI applications, or for those with development teams who have AI expertise, we have the most approachable and productive platform for AI in the world. Azure AI is the best platform for AI development and operations management. The machine learning capabilities in Azure give developers and data scientists the ability to build and train and deploy machine learning models quickly. And as I mentioned earlier, Azure provides a common MLOps platform that scales across the entire organization, so everyone from everyday users to business users to developers and data scientists can collaborate in the same place, so you have one central place of governance. And our approach doesn't stop there. One of the most pressing questions we get from our enterprise customers has consistently been around how AI can help them in situations that require the use of deep subject matter expertise. They want to know how their subject matter experts can effectively use AI and apply their knowledge in ways that help in solving for the most challenging problems, whether for business or for society. And to do this, we need to put AI into the hands of researchers, operations managers, field technicians, marketers, biz dev people, and more. So these highly skilled subject matter experts can work smarter and help them to apply, co-reason, and collaborate with AI across their teams. One fascinating example of this is the Swedish-based company Mackmyra Whiskey. Mackmyra has combined AI with a 1,000-year-old brewing technique, human expertise, and craftsmanship to elevate their product to the next level by putting AI right in the hands of the whiskey master blender. Over the past year, Mackmyra has partnered with the Finnish tech company Fourkind and Microsoft to create the world's first whiskey developed with AI. Master blender Angela D'Orazio was able to coach AI models and algorithms to select the best recipe for bottling. She tested and refined the recommendations based on her expertise and the deep knowledge of her craft at a pace and level that was never before possible. Putting AI in the hands of this master blender led to the resulting Whiskey Intelligence by Mackmyra and Fourkind getting awarded a gold medal by the American Distilling Institute and named 2020 Best of Category International Malt Whiskey. Truly revolutionary. Building off the success at Mackmyra, Fourkind is now partnering with Mondelez International to do the same for the snack industry. Mondelez is one of the world's largest snack companies, famous for some of my favorite brands like Oreo, definitely Sour Patch Kids, Trident Gum, Toblerone, Cadbury, and lots more. They're always looking for how to bring the next great snack to market, and I thank them profusely for that. Using AI, they'll now be able to provide insights and recommendations to their master tastemakers to improve snack quality and discover new taste experiences to delight our taste buds in new ways. An absolutely vital sector, especially given the COVID-19 crisis, is healthcare and pharmaceuticals. It's so important that the brilliant experts in these fields can pursue innovation and knowledge that can help them answer hard questions and provide solutions. Novartis, the Swiss pharmaceutical company, is bringing the power of AI to the desk of every employee, not just their data scientists and developers, but to everyone, with the goal of transforming how medicines are discovered, manufactured, and brought to market. They've taken a truly holistic approach, redefining how every business function can make use of AI, from research to manufacturing to distribution. Many of their 50,000 employees deal with huge amounts of data related to pharmaceutical information, like medical journal articles, chemical representations, gene sequences, and clinical trial results. With AI, they can more quickly make sense and extract key insights from this vast amount of unstructured information to help them take on the next wave of challenges in medicine. Let's take a look at how Novartis is putting this into practice in their business today.
Every person contributes something unique in their job. In a pharmaceutical company like Novartis, the important aspect is finding more targets, more molecules that could eventually become a life-saving medicine. We generate data at every point of our value chain. In our alliance with Microsoft, we are innovating at the intersection of AI and life sciences, building the elemental blocks of AI such that every associate can put them together in exciting new ways. This will allow them to reason, innovate, and ultimately augment their expertise and creativity.
As a researcher, our core work is to develop new drugs. But the amount of information in the world of medicine is constantly growing. Using AI, we've been able to bring together critical information across data sources. By using our scientific knowledge and reasoning on top of AI models, we can accelerate our discovery.
We can navigate each other's data, make all this accessible, exchangeable, so that the next colleague can add his piece of work. We will be able to make connections which impacts the patient, but also us as researchers.
Every field, every industry is becoming a data-dependent, data-driven field. AI has a fundamental capability as a complement to the human expertise. If we infuse it at every single step of the workflow, we can empower our people and bring the magic of AI in a meaningful way.
I love seeing these researchers putting AI into action on such important projects. And I want to underscore that it's not only the individual employees who are able to transform their daily work in powerful ways. It's whole teams who can now collaborate, share, and explain their reasoning with others so that methodologies and learnings can be shared, replicated, and improved upon. It is astounding the power that exists to help propel us in new directions now that the opportunity to make a meaningful difference with AI is available to everyone in the business. I'd like to acknowledge that leaders across business and society have important decisions to make about how they'll serve their customers and bring all employees along as you chart the course ahead. It's my hope that this discussion showed how putting AI into action can help you address near-term needs as you react to a shifting landscape, and how becoming an AI-powered organization can help to inject resiliency and innovation into your company in a way that motivates and empowers everyone. And as I close, I'd like to share that when so much has changed, I remind myself that the human creativity and sheer ingenuity that has always gotten us through has not changed and is still our most powerful asset. The resolve and leadership you demonstrate now makes all the difference. It's a time to think strategically about the potential of today and tomorrow and take meaningful steps day by day to get there. I wish you all well and thank you for your time.
From accelerating medical research to improving access to care for the underserved, AI's transformation of the healthcare industry is having a profound impact on all of our lives. Here to bring this into focus for us is Microsoft National Director for AI, Health, and Life Sciences, Tom Laurie. Nice to see you, Tom.
Hey, Angela. Hello, and greetings from Monterey, California today. Great to be social distancing.
Exactly. Well, good to see you again. Well, Tom, healthcare, which includes, for the sake of this conversation, providers, payers, life sciences, truly a data-driven segment of our economy. What are you seeing when it comes to the use of AI?
Well, in healthcare, when it comes to the use of AI, many organizations are starting, but they're early in the journey. And what we're seeing in that AI-powered organizational world in healthcare is many organizations moving away from the traditional provision of services and towards the use of AI to create what's coming to be known as intelligent health systems. So what's an intelligent health system and how is that different? Intelligent health systems leverage data and AI to create strategic advantage, and they do that by making services more efficient. And they also do that not just in a little area or two, but they really focus on making things better across all touch points, all experiences, and all channels that a consumer may turn to when it comes to a healthcare need. A lot of this is being driven by a couple of factors. The first is in healthcare, there's an unrelenting set of challenges faced by organizations like hospitals and payers today. Great expansion of medical capabilities, which is really a good thing. Financial constraints, staffing shortages or challenges. Increasingly, our best providers are going through burnout because of the relentless amount of work they have to do and some of the work conditions in which they're having to operate. The second thing, which is really great, is really the changing expectations of consumers. I mean, think about it. We live in a much more intelligent mobile world thanks to the cloud and all those mobile apps that you probably have on your smartphone today. And as consumers run every other aspect of their lives using smart applications, when they have a need for healthcare, they have the same expectation of being able to use intelligent systems to improve the experience they want and, frankly, the outcomes they expect.
Wow, that's a great point. So when it comes to challenges for both clinicians and consumers, the most immediate health issue, of course, that's on everyone's mind, it's COVID-19. So what are you seeing in how AI is being used to help stem this pandemic, which is both a health and an economic crisis for a lot of people?
Yeah, great question. So, COVID is teaching us so many things. At a macro level, what COVID has taught is that health security really affects national and economic security for all of us, to your point on your question. The second thing we've seen is we've known the health system is less than perfect and there are flaws. And some of those flaws came forward as we started looking at how to manage this pandemic. One of the biggest things that I see is in the flaws are how healthcare gathers, stores, and utilizes data. So the good news is the COVID situation has been challenging, but it's also demonstrated the use of cloud and AI to connect and do good has created some very real opportunities. They're not just pie in the sky.
Wow. Well, do you have any examples that you could share related to that?
Of course. So when we think about the initial onset, particularly in the United States, where I think a lot of organizations and people got caught flat-footed, where we had researchers and others trying to get a handle on what was happening. There was a lot of information actually out there around the world as far as the coronavirus and the family of viruses, but none of that information was very readily available. So one of the cool things early on was Microsoft, in conjunction with the National Institutes of Health, the National Library of Medicine, and others, created what's known now as the COVID-19 Open Research Data Set. And essentially what that is we took 29,000 of the best academic studies and articles on COVID and brought them together quickly using Microsoft's knowledge management tools. So that immediately allowed those data to be searchable and used by researchers and clinicians. Another great example, I think, was the coronavirus assessment bot. So for some time, Microsoft has had its own commercially available health bot. So within that, we basically spun up a different version specific to healthcare, and we applied that to coronavirus. So that was something that was used by the Centers for Disease Control and hospitals around the world to help field millions of inquiries when it comes to symptom checking and recommendations for treatment.
Now, aside from AI being used in the fight against COVID, what are some other examples that you're seeing in the use of AI in traditional healthcare settings?
Well, the list of possibilities are almost infinite, but some of the top ones that I see, there's a lot of work being done in the area of clinical decision support. This is where AI has the ability to augment the work of clinicians in a variety of areas, from improving diagnostics to when it comes to having to have different treatment options and recommendations, helping clinicians have the best understanding of options, treatment outcomes, and being used in a variety of ways. Another area that we're seeing is the application of AI in chronic condition management. This is where, as you probably know, the majority of expenditures in healthcare go today. So the ability to do better at helping that individual diabetic or helping using AI and data to better serve the population of all diabetics, it's a key area for further use, and it's getting a lot of action. Finally, on the consumer side, there's a lot of things going on with lifestyle management and monitoring. Some of that is just some of the apps that you're going to find on your phone or through Cortana getting better. A lot more of that, though, is tying some of those functions that consumers like to the actual care process and tying them into their physicians and just creating this seamless continuum when it comes to AI and connectivity to keep you healthy and then to help take care of you when you're not.
It's that doing good you were talking about.
Absolutely.
You know, within healthcare, of course, we have this highly trained workforce that includes, physicians, nurses, researchers. As AI becomes more pervasive in health and medicine, how does it replace or change the way people work?
Great question. I'd back up and say the first thing to understand is the value proposition for AI. And for everything that's written, I can basically boil it down to the value proposition for AI in health, and it really is for all industry, comes down to its ability to either automate or augment the way we work or work processes. So on automation and manufacturing that we heard from earlier is clearly leading the way when it comes to AI and automation. But automation means a repetitive work process that's done by humans may be done by a machine or a smart device in the future. So within healthcare, Accenture did a great study, and it suggests that up to 36% of all activities in healthcare could actually be automated. So great value in looking how that might play out. I think the bigger value, though, in healthcare is how AI is going to augment the work done by knowledge workers. Knowledge workers are, again, the physicians, the nurses, anyone that's having to solve complex problems with reasoning and other things. And the idea here is that the ability to put AI in the hands of talented people to have them do better at whatever they care about, assisting them to be better is really where I think the greatest value is going to be. A good example is probably radiology, where we're seeing a great uptake in the use of intelligence being actually built into diagnostic images. So what that means is there's a faster starting point for a radiologist in looking at an image, at being able to spot trends, at being able to do more reads faster. And what that really means is it makes them more efficient at a repetitive process, but more importantly, it frees up time to do higher value things like working with the specialists who are having to make decisions on care based on those images.
It definitely sounds like a smarter way to work. It's more efficient. It sounds like a win-win. But just to be clear, can we expect AI to replace physicians and other clinicians in the future?
Another great question. I think the simple answer is no. There's a lot that's been written about that, and there are times where we're out there online and we see what I call the creepy robots, where people are suggesting that somehow that's going to be the new norm in healthcare. I think what's important to recognize is that AI is great at certain things, and it's getting better, but it's really not so good at things that are integral to the care process. There are certain things like spotting patterns that it's good at, and sometimes it's actually better than humans. But when it comes to other things, no one has figured out how to imbue computers with things like what humans have, such as reasoning, judgment, problem solving, creativity, empathy. These are all the things that are critical to the care process that humans have that I think is going to be decades, if ever, that AI will catch up. And I always like to put it this way, for all the talk about artificial intelligence, have you ever heard anyone ever talk about artificial wisdom? I mean, it simply doesn't exist. And so let me illustrate this point with a quick example. So I am not a researcher, but I'm going to play one for the sake of this interview.
Let's do it.
So I brought together a lot of data, and I used some machine learning, and I'm here to report there may be a silent killer among us. And the reason I say that is, if you look at this next graphic, what I've determined is there's a very strong correlation between per capita cheese consumption and the number of people who die by becoming tangled in their bed sheets. So think about that for a moment, and I am being facetious. But the idea is there's a strong correlation between two non-related things, but from a correlational value, there's a very high correlation. That's the sort of thing that clinicians, in looking at data, have the ability to use that reasoning, that judgment, that common sense to take the data, to look at correlations, and to actually make reasonably good decisions on diagnostics and treatment. And in the medical world, in the data science world, it's typically the discussion around correlation versus causation, which is why the best opportunities are taking AI, putting it in the hands of talented, experienced clinicians, and helping them be better at whatever they do.
Well, Tom, I know you said you're not a researcher, but that worked really well. I think we all got it.
Well, if only you can lower the amount of cheese you're consuming, I think we can save lives.
Never. No, just kidding. Well, look, Tom, I know you have a new book out from HIMSS and CRC Press, AI in Health, A Leader's Guide to Winning in the New Age of Intelligent Health Systems. So why don't you tell us about that?
Well, it's a book that I was asked to write because AI is one of the hottest topics in healthcare today. And while many people really see it as a technical issue, it really is a transformational issue involving much more than data. So, if we go back to the definition of intelligent health, which is the use of data and AI to create strategic advantages and make processes for consumers better, that's the sort of thing that is what we're all desiring to do. And it's a really good fit with where I think consumers are and continue to move when it comes to what they want and their expectations of what they get out of the health system. So intelligent health gives us the ability to put consumers more in control, to make it more convenient. And I think equally important is looking at how the system can accommodate the needs of consumers rather than the other way around, which is consumers having to shoehorn into the way healthcare works. And a quick example, if we look at just like the dynamics of millennials. So millennials are the second largest generation that are insured in America after the boomers. When it comes to millennials, only 6% have a primary care doctor. They're less influenced by traditional marketing, but they're twice as likely to take action based on advice on healthcare that they get from social media or online. So think about that for a moment. Whether you agree that's a good idea or not, that's where that generation is. So our ability to shape healthcare around how they want to receive it is good for them. And frankly, I think it's good for the health system.
Yeah, that's a great point, a good example. It sounds like there are just so many opportunities to improve health and medical services using AI. But as you know, it's one thing to see the possibilities and then another to implement, as some industries have found it challenging to change the way people and the processes work. So what's your take on how this relates to organizations adopting AI?
Well, I think you're spot on. And that's basically if you don't have, I'll give you the bottom line of my book. Transformational AI is less about technology. You can have the best cloud vendor, the right AI technology tools, data science at your disposal. That doesn't drive or guarantee success when it comes to AI doing good at scale across the healthcare enterprise. That really is where the leadership imperative comes in, where we often see organizations that are excited about AI. They've done some pilots that are successful, but moving from pilots to doing that at scale requires leaders to think and act differently. So it's things around workforce transformation. So if you're changing clinical and operational workflows, how things work, that obviously involves humans and employees and clinicians. So the ability to have HR working right alongside your AI plan is critically important when it comes to workforce transformation. Creating what we call a modern data estate is probably the most foundational issue when it comes to critical to success for AI. And then finally, it's interesting to me how many times we see healthcare organizations ramping up on an AI initiative. They're a healthcare organization driven by clinicians, and yet clinicians aren't necessarily involved early on. So meaningfully engaging clinicians who drive every aspect of that process is extremely useful, because you can do something that's technically right, but really not match up to the way in which we provide medicine, provide care, take care of patients.
Well said. You mentioned the management of a modern data estate. So what does that mean, and how does it relate to the implementation of AI?
Well, what I'd say is AI needs, feeds, and thrives on data. Without it, there is no AI. So AI success is really determined by the strength of an organization's data estate. And so as a strategic advisor, I often get to work with clinical and health leaders in big organizations. And every once in a while, I think they've read an article or done something where I will hear them say, we think data is the new currency in healthcare, which is great. I love the thought. And that often causes me then to pose the question of, if data is the new currency in healthcare, are you managing your data the same way you're managing your financial assets? And usually there's a chuckle, and the answer is probably not. So when it comes to data on a data estate is basically all the data you own, control, manage, or use, regardless of where it's stored. It can be in the cloud, it can be in your data center, it can be on the edge. The goal is bringing this data together in a way that makes it easier to make decisions on an agile basis, as we've learned with COVID recently, and using all of that to fuel the transformation we're talking about. So that's really what data estates are about. The second part of why that's important is just the speed by which data is being generated in healthcare. So there's a study that just got published that shows the amount of time it takes for medical knowledge to double. So think about this. In 1950, a newly minted physician would go their entire career, their entire practice, 50 years before medical knowledge would double. Today, according to the study, medical knowledge is doubling every 73 days. So think about that for a moment. The best trained physician coming out of school in the residency today will have twice the amount of knowledge to deal with a couple of months from now. So it's impossible for humans to keep up with that. Some think it's a problem. I think it's a huge opportunity to take the best of clinicians, the best of the AI tools, and apply all of that growing knowledge to do good.
Wow, I think I'm still blown away by what you said. You're right, that is nearly impossible for humans to keep up with things changing that quickly. So I can definitely see the possibility of AI, the opportunity, as you put it. Beyond the use cases for AI in healthcare that you're seeing right now, what do you think the future holds if we just look farther down the road?
Well, if we look beyond the next year or two, say the next 4 or 5 years, I think there's so much tremendous upside happening now and will happen in the next couple of years. But if you look kind of further into the future, some of the things I really see are, we've been talking about precision medicine for a number of years, and a lot of that started as we started getting better genomics. But when I think of precision medicine, which is the individualized treatment of each patient, you and everyone else, and it's not based on best practices of a population, it's based on all of your data, your genomics, your social determinants, everything about you in managing your health, and then when you're not healthy, the best options for managing you to get well again. AI provides such a great opportunity to make that real. And I think you're already seeing a lot of AI coming into the genomic aspects. Increasingly, one of the hottest topics today is bringing in that social determinant data about all of the socioeconomic status that really does have impact on your health, bringing that all together. Obviously, and we're seeing it now with COVID, expedited drug discovery and development when it comes to how fast can we develop a vaccine. A lot of that is being driven and expedited with AI. There's something I'm particularly intrigued about is what I call the advent of data whisperers. And what that looks like is there is theory and growing data to suggest that in large bodies of data, that data is actually whispering things to us all the time that we want to know. The challenge is we're either not listening or we don't have the tools to hear it. So imagine this body of knowledge that's doubling our ability to look at not just looking for one thing, that needle in the haystack, but truly being able to look at all of the things that data may be telling us, but we haven't yet learned how to mine that data for patterns, whether it's for you or whether it's for entire populations of people. I'm seeing a lot that I'm very intrigued by going beyond the borders of the United States when it comes to intelligent care without boundaries. So whether that's use of things like telemedicine, remote monitoring, all aided by AI, whether that's helping in rural locations, as much as we talk about rural locations, urban areas have obviously special needs. I look at outside of the United States where there are still places in the world where they have migratory populations, which sounds kind of strange. And yet those migratory populations in places like Africa, many of them are carrying smartphones. So our ability to serve people remotely throughout any geography and distance, I think has great potential for doing good in a lot of areas.
I definitely think there's a lot to be excited about based on our conversation. So thank you.
You're very welcome, Angela. Take care.
Hello everyone. In this next section, we will have 3 speakers who we have asked to share their experience with the real applied projects with artificial intelligence from our region today. And we will have Jovita Michalska, who is the CEO of the Digital University and Singularity University Ambassador from Poland. Then we will have Martin Zeman, who is the head of Operational Risk Department in Česká Spořitelna in Czech Republic. And finally, and we will begin with this speaker, we will have Jaco Foc, who is the Chief Innovation Officer in OMV Petrom in Romania. Hello, Mr. Foc. OMV Petrom is working in a field where safety is one of the top priorities for the business. And I know you're exploring some of the innovative ways how to apply AI to help you identify threats or incidents. Can you tell us a little bit more about those projects where you explore usage of AI and how exactly AI will be applied there to help you address those key challenges for your organization? Thank you. Your company also operates a large, geographically distributed retail network. Are there some AI applications specific to this retail part of the business? Thank you very much. Next, we will have Martin Zeman from Česká Spořitelna to talk about their approach for detecting credit card fraud with AI. So, Mr. Zeman, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your use case?
Thank you, Dima. So, let me introduce myself very briefly. I work for Česká Spořitelna as a head of operational risk. Česká Spořitelna is a major Czech bank with a history spanning over 95 years. Nowadays, we have 10,000 employees. And for past 20 years, we are a member of Erste Group. Our client base consists of 4.5 millions of clients across all segments. And our clients use 3 million of payment cards. And this is my focus for today. I believe we all use payment cards. and I dare say that now in times of coronavirus, much more than ever. However, not all payments are genuine. How can that happen, and what are the dangers? First, you may become a victim of some clever fraudster. Imagine that you are having a lunch and someone copied a magnetic stripe of your card when you paid with it. Some fraudster is able to manufacture a copy of your card and make transactions on your behalf and on your account. We call it card-present fraud, as the card has to be physically present in order to make a transaction. All transactions in Europe require chip. We don't use magnetic stripe anymore. So stolen data have to be misused outside of Europe. This fraud scheme is called skimming, and it has been the most frequent international crime for many, many years. It's a classic, and I believe every decent bank have an internal monitoring in place which can detect a sequence of for example, of ordinary transaction from Prague, followed by a fraudulent one from South America within a short time span. This is an example of a rule, and I must say that these rules usually work well. And now a few words about card-not-present fraud. Just imagine an internet transaction. It is enough for you to know just this card number, expiration date, and CVV code, which is on the back of your card. Well, these frauds are much more diverse. You may order a new phone and it's not delivered. Or a fraudster may order 5 of them at once. Or imagine you have just bought an e-book over the internet, but in reality you became a member of a club and you are being charged every month for $1 or $2. This is something you are not aware of. Or another example, your kids want to buy a magic sword for some cool game they are playing on their mobile. And later on, you can see magic things happening on your account. So to make it short, CNP frauds are evolving. Different schemes, often small amounts, but frequent. And total loss of card-not-present fraud is still somewhat lesser than loss from card-present fraud, but the trend is really clear. Card-not-present frauds double every year. That's why we are really focused on this topic. You should know that card-not-present fraud is not typically a loss of a bank. The loss is often taken by a merchant. So the loss volume is not that crucial for us. However, from the client perspective, every fraud shakes his trust. And he must claim his money back. Bank has to process chargeback through Visa or MasterCard. And when the card was blocked, the client was not able to make payments. So every fraud is a very strong situation we want to prevent. We have been monitoring cards for ages, actually so long that we can speak about certain legacy burden. Monitoring of standard credit transfers is a much younger brother to a card monitoring. However, these brothers don't have much in common. They are independent. 2 silos would be a proper term. Let's look at it from a client perspective. In case of Google Pay or Apple Pay, the payments are made on a mobile device of the client, the same device with the internet banking of a client. Or upcoming version of 3D Secure, where card payment is supposed to be authorized in a banking application on the same mobile. So cards and payments are more and more interconnected. And so we are building a new and unified monitoring platform. It's a huge challenge, and our model is going to be just one brick in this new structure. Our current card monitoring system works only with transaction data. It is extremely egalitarian system. It scores all clients equally. For example, it is suspicious if some client makes 6 foreign transactions per hour. The rule doesn't take into account that for some client this may be perfectly ordinary behavior. So our new model should definitely recognize what is typical behavior of each of our clients. And this meant that we had to process much more data. Card transactions are quite frequent, let's say approximately 1 billion of rows per 2 years. So we took this 1 billion of rows and joined them with predictors which were already available in the bank. I will give you some examples of these predictors. For example, how much time does the client spend abroad? What is the sign of the town he lives in? How old is he? And so on and so on. I speak about several hundreds of predictors. And if you multiply 1 billion transactions with several hundred predictors, you get big data. To be specific, I speak about several terabytes of data, and I was not able to process such a big data in our internal environment. There are just no free disks and servers waiting for me to come and claim them for my ideas. And despite the agile movement, we still have project standards and planning and business cases and all this horrible stuff.
That was very interesting. And I wonder, why did you choose AI to combat this credit card fraud problem?
Well, we had more reasons. I will start with a personal reason. I am an old programmer. My first job 25 years ago was programming for Windows 3, so I had no experience with AI or even neural networks. However, I was reading lots of sexy popular articles about AI and I wanted to try it, so I was waiting for an opportunity. And card frauds just seemed perfect. Lots of transactions, lots of frauds, and an old system to upgrade and improve. So many rules difficult to maintain and evaluate their efficiency. Also, an idea of processing of several hundreds client features made me really sick. It cannot be done manually by experts. I also wanted to measure whether our experts who design monitoring rules can be beaten by AI. I also knew that Visa and MasterCard were also running neural networks, but they have slightly different focus. They have more rows, and we have more columns. We know more about the client. They are also not focused on a single client. They are kind of intermediary between merchants and banks, so they are on a higher level. With that being said, we iterated many options and converged to our custom neural network architecture, which tries to capture the nature of our data and client behavior. It is a recurrent neural network, which is sometimes called neural network with a memory. It means that before scoring of a single transaction, it goes through arbitrary number, and in our case 500, previous transactions of the client first. And in this way, the past behavior of the client is captured. Client features are computed on a monthly basis and are rather stable. You see changes in transactions are much more frequent, and so it makes sense to be processed in a separate layer. And in our case, a layer without a memory. For some features, we have to use embeddings. For example, we register over 10 million of merchants. It's a typical categorical variable which cannot be normalized in any reasonable manner, so we use embeddings.
And I see you're building a custom neural network in RNN actually in Azure. Can you tell us what was your personal experience using Azure?
Well, I already mentioned troubles we had on-premise environment, and Microsoft Azure was a perfect solution to all our issues. Storage space was cheap and easy to access. Compute power was exactly as we needed and immediately ready within minutes. And I must admit we didn't know what we would exactly need and when. As in our case, we needed to do the exploration of the possibilities first. From the project perspective, we also didn't have to go through all mandatory project paperwork. We just announced that it would be a risky and demanding project, and we just wanted to explore new ways, and we were prepared to fail. We didn't want to pretend anything and just start working. And be sure, we did discover some dead ends. However, we simply dropped the resource, and that was all. No need to explain why and what failed. This freedom to experiment, to try, to explore, and to lay hands on some new and powerful technology in Azure, it was just gorgeous. And I can recommend this to everyone. Another great benefit was that we were paying only when we were working. And certainly, we had many troubles like data quality fixes on the source system data, and we had to wait for some fix. So we just deleted or paused the Azure service, and it saved a lot of cost for us. Our counterparty from Microsoft was, and still is, very knowledgeable and helpful. Without his advice, we would have been lost. He introduced us to Azure basics, like creating resources and sizing clusters and so on, and later also to all key technologies like blob storage and PySpark for preparing data on Azure Databricks. Also Keras, framework for creation of neural networks. We didn't have to have any deep knowledge of TensorFlow. It was perfect. There is still a lot to do. At the moment, we are discussing model deployment to an on-prem production environment, and in comparison with Azure experience, it's again very, very tough. So that's all from my side. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me or Michal Marushan. We swear to answer all your questions. Thank you and bye.
Next, we will talk to Jovita Michalska and ask her to share her view on some of the most important topics around AI today. So, Jovita, you are working across many communities, including academia, policymakers, commercial organizations. What are those key challenges for implementing AI which those communities are facing today?
Good morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here, and thank you for inviting me. I'm Jovita Michalska. I'm CEO of Digital University in Poland, which is an educational organization working with big companies and helping employees understand what technologies can bring to their business and to the world. And I'm also an ambassador of Singularity University, which is Silicon Valley-based educational think tank operating globally. So it's my great pleasure to talk to you today about the challenges of AI on one hand, but on the other hand, I think it's extremely important to start the narratives about what AI can do for good, how impactful this technology can be on our society, on our environment, on everything, on health. So my focus on today's presentation will be what AI can do for good. And we have some interesting examples in Poland as well. Some facts for the beginning. The fact that you are all here means that you understand the AI as a very important technology, and it's very important if we speak about impact on the world and our future. So according to PwC recent study, AI will add about $15.7 trillion to the global economy by 2030, which is really pretty huge amount of money. And we all know that AI can and will change the world, from space exploration through countering terrorism to even creating art in every single field of business and life. Based on recent research done in Poland, 80% of advanced AI users says that they see an important value on a business field. So they understand that if they're using AI, they will be very competitive on the market. They will start new fields and they will win within their business area. But at the same time, we're facing lots of challenges while working on AI and trying to implement it. From my perspective as an educational company, lack of education is the most important one. And so 1/3 of organizations in Poland, based on a recent Microsoft study called AI and Skills, 1/3 of Polish business, they do not even started. They didn't even started working on AI field, and they didn't even start with any technology. Around 23% of the companies are advanced in using AI, and they say that it works best if they have technology, but they also have people advanced in this field. So they invest a lot of money in upskilling, reskilling of their employees. It works best together. But we also have not enough case studies, because if not more than 20% of the companies are using artificial intelligence as technology, there's also at the same time not a lot of cases on the Polish market. So from the perspective of the company that are not experimenting with AI yet, it would be much easier if they have cases from similar businesses or from the same industry that they could just like copy paste the solution and then benefit from that. But there is not a lot of cases yet on the market to learn from and also to base on. We all know that technology is just a tool, but the most important element of it, of implementation, of working with all the technologies, are people. So we are facing traditional company culture in many of our business partners. People spend usually like 10 to 15 years within the same company or within the same sector or industry. So mainly they are afraid of change. Mainly they do not want to change anything. They also work in silos, so it makes those companies, it makes it's much more difficult to implement any technology. So this is something that has to be changed. There is also no common vision. So even if the technology is somewhere in a place, it's not used properly. It's not used as a heart of the organization. It's also very difficult for normal people to understand what the decisions made by AI are based on, and so because the processes of AI are very complex today, so it's really very difficult for people to understand why this or that decision was made by AI. So the solution here may be showing positive examples of usage of technology so that people can build more trust in technology. That is why we have to work on using AI for social benefit, using AI for good, and there are several examples on the Polish market already that we are using AI for social benefits to do good. So let me share some examples with you. Clouds on Mars, a data company that is using AI and machine learning algorithms to detect pollution or to predict pollution, let's call it like this. And so one of the projects they do together with Microsoft, they predict and report the level of air pollution in two biggest Polish cities, Warsaw and Krakow, which also fighting the smoke issue, both of the cities. So they use historical meteorological data and also historical air quality data, and combining them using machine learning and artificial intelligence algorithms, they predict pollution in those cities, which is extremely important also from the prediction side, but at the same time from educational side. I like this example very much because it talks a lot about collective intelligence. Leothon, it's a kind of a hackathon. It's a platform for the cooperation of students and academics and the business. So business gives their challenges. Microsoft, who's a partner of this, gives technology, and the students and professors work on the tasks to really find solutions. And in this particular example, they were working on waste management area. There were a few tasks like digitization of waste management process, monitoring the states of natural environment, segregation of municipal waste, and last but not least, also extremely important, carbon footprint calculation. So it went very well, actually. There were winners, and what's the most important, all of the winners are working on the solutions, and they will implement it on Polpharma, a Polish pharmaceutical company that was a partner of the hackathon. They are implementing, and these are real solutions for the real challenges within the company. So PMUD, one of the teams working on the challenge, they invented a web app and mobile app that's automating waste management system. Lingarians, the other idea, it's a calculator for carbon footprint for the products and events, and also they implemented they came up with an idea of AI assistant that can generate intelligent insights. The winner, the main one, JMMJ, they've implemented the solution of automated machine learning that can improve waste management process. It will be implemented very soon on the real field of Polpharma. But AI can do also lots of very, very good things for the environment. It can help climate change and can help taking care of endangered species and their surrounding, their environment. And this is what's happening with the help of Microsoft in Białowieża, the beautiful town in Poland, where we can find bisons. There is around 500 of them, these amazing animals. So AI also is helping with in this field, which is very, very important today when we have so many challenges on the climate field. And last thing I'd like to share with you is the thing I'm extremely proud of. It's a community we've built on the Polish market, but it's also international community. Digital University and Microsoft, we started kind of a discussion club. There are some professors from universities in Poland. There is a business side as well. And this community, there is also a political side and opinion leaders in this. So the group is very diverse, but they are all influencers in the field of AI. So I'd like to say at the end, I'd like to say what Professor Aleksandra Przegalińska, a professor at Koźmińskiej University, said during our last meeting, is that with AI and machine learning, we're super successful in helping out institutions and businesses. But especially in today's situation we're facing now, we need to be very vocal about how AI can be socially beneficial. How can we bring AI to the field of helping people and bringing better solutions for the environment, for everyone of us. So this is this kind of communities can really help in organizing this and making these changes, being faster and doing much more for society than we're doing now. So let me leave you with these slides, and hopefully you found something interesting in my presentation. And the last word, I'd like to leave you with the sentences of my boss, the CEO, the founder of Singularity University, one of the most important people within the technology industry globally. And he said that the world's biggest problems are at the same time are the world's biggest opportunities. So let's think about AI and other technologies from this perspective, that this is the most, the biggest opportunity. Using technology, we can solve all the global problems and challenges. And thank you so much for today. I wish you a great experience during the conference, and hopefully see you soon. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Great. I would like to thank all the speakers of this section for sharing their practical insights. And with this, we are moving to the next, maybe even more important section about responsible AI and those processes and tools we have today to help you in this responsible AI journey.
You know, enterprise and public sector organizations alike are embracing AI at unprecedented rates. As more and more of our governments, businesses, and healthcare organizations build AI into their infrastructures, the stakes have become higher for everyone. Here with insight on how to build your organization on AI we can trust is Microsoft Chief Responsible AI Officer, Natasha Crampton. Good to see you, Natasha.
You too, Angela.
So, Natasha, let's dive right into this conversation. Why is responsible AI an important issue for business leaders to consider in today's environment?
Well, Angela, Satya recently commented that as COVID-19 has impacted every aspect of our work and life, we've seen about 2 years worth of digital transformation in just 2 months. And in many ways, it's really on top of the interest and increased adoption of AI technologies that we were already seeing. So today, we really all face the challenge of needing to earn trust as we accelerate the adoption of these new technologies. We already know that they bring significant benefits across industries, whether you're talking about enhancing new employee experiences or developing new techniques to serve our customers. But it is the case that new AI technologies do raise important questions and new risks, and we really need to think about those upfront to make sure that we can realize those benefits. So, for example, you could think about the situation where your AI system exhibits bias or has security flaws. What about the situation where your system just doesn't operate reliably and safely in the real world? That could adversely affect your customers, your employees, ultimately, really your company's reputation. So at Microsoft, the way we think about this is that we've long operated from the belief that people just won't use technology that they don't trust. So we essentially need to treat responsible AI like we have privacy and security. And for me, that really means baking responsible AI considerations into systems from the very outset. We need to be cognizant about the way in which AI operates in the real world, test our assumptions, monitor how the systems behave in their context. And from my perspective, Angela, if you take that approach, responsible AI really can help organizations address risk, to innovate in new and exciting ways, but ultimately to make sure that we create value and benefits for everyone.
Yeah, you definitely made the case for why it's so important. You know, as Chief Responsible AI Officer, you have this unique view of the opportunities and the challenges presented by AI across industries. So could you share some of the top challenges you're hearing from business leaders when it comes to using AI responsibly?
Sure. My sense of it is that the challenges have evolved. Initially, there was uncertainty about the tech itself and its capabilities. And we probably have science fiction to thank for some of that. But there's also a bit of doubt, perhaps, about how we would be able to realize the benefits of this technology in a way that was consistent with upholding trust. What I've seen more recently is organizations moving to focus on specific use cases that help people do their jobs better and that really augment existing processes. And by delving into those specific use cases, it's really helped to untangle some of these responsible AI issues. At times, they can seem a little bit amorphous, a bit hard to grasp when we talk about them in the abstract. So really zeroing in on the use cases has started to help. So let me give you an example to try and bring this to life. This example concerns Scandinavian Airlines. They have a popular and valuable loyalty program called Euro Bonus. In fact, it's so popular and so valuable that it's become a target for scammers. And some of these scammers have tried to gain as many points as possible in order to redeem it for flights later on or to buy tickets that they then on-sell to others. In order to protect the integrity of that valuable program for their legitimate customers, their valued customers, Scandinavian Airlines decided that they needed to develop a fraud detection model that would help them pick up frauds large and small. Now, they used Azure ML in order to develop a model that really augmented their existing processes and critically left that final decision as to whether there was an instance of fraud to a human being. But what was really interesting was that because they were able to use Azure ML and our interpretability toolkits that were baked into Azure ML, they were able to discover a couple of things. first, they were actually able to determine which features the model was relying on in order to make the prediction. And this allowed them to move from a more complex model down to a simpler one. They moved from 54 features down to 31. And that's simply because of the insights they got into their model by using an interpretability tool like InterpretML. Secondly, they were able to no longer be worried about that black box problem, the problem that a model would make a prediction and then a human being would not be able to explain why that was the case. So for me, that's just a really core example of how by digging into a specific use case, we've been able to reveal and peel back the layers of the onion on a use case that was otherwise going to be a bit tricky.
Yeah, and overall better at predicting fraud now?
Yes, that's right. There's increased accuracy and explainability. So people really understand why those predictions are being made.
Beautiful. I know Microsoft has been on its own responsible AI journey for some time now, and I know that many leaders watching this today are interested in learning about Microsoft's approach. So why don't you fill us in on that?
Sure, it absolutely has been a journey and one that's really underpinned by accountability. So making sure that we're living up to our commitments. We are fortunate at Microsoft to have had leadership that recognized these issues as early as 4 years ago now. So in 2016, we started to pull together early ideas that then formed the basis of our 6 principles that guide the ethical creation and use of AI. So those 6 principles are that we believe that in order to build AI systems that warrant people's trust, systems should be fair, they should be reliable and safe, private and secure, inclusive, and underpinned by foundational values of transparency and accountability. In 2017, we established Ether, which is our internal advisory committee on responsible AI. And in 2019, we established the Office of Responsible AI that I lead. Really, when I take a step back and look at what we're doing, really using a lot of the concepts and practices that worked effectively when we were building out our privacy and security and accessibility efforts. So our governance structure, for example, adopts a hub and a spoke model. So by having a hub, we have this consistent bar for responsible AI across the company, and we empower our spokes to make sure that they can drive initiatives and be accountable for them. But basically, the spokes allow us to get scale. And look, our system continues to evolve as it should. Governance systems, I think, in this space particularly need to be agile to the changing nature of the technology and the business.
Right. And again, not an afterthought when you look at those principles from the beginning, but baked in.
Absolutely. And really, I think there we need to sort of start with principles and move to the practices, right? And that in itself is a process, as we've learned. When we move from principles to practices, we've really found that it involves 3 things. You have to translate, you have to make trade-offs, and you have to experiment. So let me dig into those 3 things a little bit more. Translation is necessary because a lot of the leading thought in this area is academic. And so we have to move from academic literature to just concepts and vocabulary that our engineering and sales teams understand. We need to translate between domains. In terms of trade-offs, we need to acknowledge that in the real world, constraints do exist as we engineer our new products. And they exist for our customers and partners as they're deploying our technologies as well. So we need to be mindful of those and need to consider how best we can responsibly develop and deploy these products, bearing in mind those constraints. Finally, experimentation. Look, there have been times when we've developed a practice that we think is going to uphold a principle, and it doesn't work out like that for a variety of reasons. So if I take those 3 concepts together and give you an example, it's not hard to convince a team developing vision or speech technology that they need to develop technology that is fair. But what those teams then need to understand is these sorts of issues, right? What is the data that they need to collect? What are the benchmark tests they should be running? How should we communicate with our customers? So getting to that more specific set of practices to uphold our principles is really just a core focus for us right now.
And why don't you tell me a little bit more about that piece?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think one of the key things that makes this principles to practices effort possible are our people. And our responsible AI champs are at the center of all of that. Our champs are individuals that we've appointed in work groups. Those are both our engineering teams and our sales groups. And I really think of them as our force multipliers. They're there in the work groups where the projects are taking place. One of their key jobs at this stage of our development is to just raise awareness of our principles and our commitment to responsible AI. They're good at spotting issues, catching them, raising their hand for help when they need it. You know, one of the key sort of design points for us is that the champs are multidisciplinary, and I think that's been a really important aspect for us. You know, we have engineers working with PMs, with designers, with policy people, with their lawyers, and it's really that multifaceted consideration of the issues that I think has served us well. It also acknowledges the fact that the responsible AI issues that we are addressing are socio-technical ones. The other dimension of the CHAMPS program that I think is worth pointing out is that together we've created a community, and that allows our champs to share best practices. And that for us is really going to be a source of a lot of goodness going forward.
Such a great...
I would say, in addition to our people, the tooling efforts are critical. I mean, at the end of the day, we want to make it easy for teams to do the right thing. And there are opportunities for tools in this space as well. In fact, one of the things I was most excited to see at Build was the release of some additional tooling as part of our Azure ML platform. So we now have interpretability and fairness tools that are integrated into our platform, which then means that they're available to all of our customers and partners to use as they too navigate these sorts of issues.
Oh, that's awesome. You know, one thing we've talked a lot about during the summit is culture. And I'm just curious, what sort of impact are you seeing on Microsoft's culture because of responsible AI efforts?
That's a great question. A cultural attribute that we learned early on was the importance of learning together, especially when we don't get something right. So I'm going to give you the Tay chatbot example to illustrate how this has happened in practice. So before Tay, we had actually launched a chatbot in China called Xiaoais, and it was used by 40 million users to enjoy stories and conversations with one another. And that experience really led our researchers and developers to ask themselves, you know, could we have a chatbot and have that chatbot find the same success in a radically different cultural environment? And so that led our team to develop Tay. And Tay was aimed at 18 to 24-year-olds in the US and really just wanted to engage them in casual conversation. Within 24 hours of launch on Twitter, as some of you may recall, a subgroup of trolls found a vulnerability in Tay and taught Tay to repeat a storm of offensive and inflammatory language. And that was really a significant learning moment for us. We took Tay offline that day. We deleted the tweets. The head of research, Peter Lee, issued an apology. But I think crucially, Satya, our CEO, first expressed empathy for anyone hurt by Tay's offensive comments, but then also reached out to the team behind Tay and urged them to keep pushing, knowing that he was with them, keep learning, keep improving. So as you'd expect, we subsequently worked to understand what were the socio-technical challenges that led to Tay's failure. I mean, it was interesting for me that Xiaoais didn't face the same challenges in China. And from a responsible AI point of view, I think that really underscores the importance of considering cultural context. Tay did undertake a series of stress tests before Tay was made available. But again, one of the most important things that we can do in the responsible AI context is to try and put as much effort as we can into predicting all the ways in which the system may be misused, including malicious uses. So all that is to say, I think developing responsible AI approaches can be humbling, but approaching it with a growth mindset with high ambition and some tenacity are all cultural approaches that have worked well for us at Microsoft.
That is such a great story. I'm so glad you shared it. You know, it's really clear from the Tay example that cultural context is crucial, and this feels especially important as people, businesses, and government, they examine the forms of bias today and work to address issues like discrimination. So how can we ensure that humans develop AI that is fair?
Angela, to be honest, I've spent the last 9 years of my career at Microsoft, 2 of those working on responsible AI issues. And of all the complex and challenging issues I've confronted, really, fairness and inclusiveness are the ones that keep me up at night. And here's why. First, humans have biases, right? And biases can show up and be magnified by AI technology. They can creep into data sets that are used to train models. They can influence the decisions that we make when we build models, how we act on models. Second, results in a lab when you're testing AI technologies don't necessarily reflect how AI works in the real world. Societal context and technical considerations can change. We really need to design for fairness throughout the life cycle, and we need to monitor it over time. And thirdly, I'd say that there's no single definition of fairness that applies equally well to different types of applications of AI. You have to make trade-offs as to the fairness metrics that you wish to achieve. And those trade-offs have to be based on competing priorities. There are seldom clear-cut answers when it comes to fairness.
Yeah, and that is a fair point. Could you share any examples of how unfair AI even happens?
Sure. So we can think about, a theoretical example like the use of computer vision at an airport, perhaps to screen travelers to increase security and just make those customs queues just a little bit shorter. Now, bearing in mind it's a travel context, it's really important to think about regional differences. So if your computer vision models are trained on a data set that's made up of people from a completely different region to the one where you're actually running that model, then that may cause you challenges. I think another dimension of it is you still have to acknowledge that it's travel, and therefore you're dealing with typically an international audience. And so while you need to think about regional considerations, you need to balance that with the recognition that there will be international travelers there as well.
Yeah, that's a great example. And for someone watching that's thinking, okay, this is really important to me, so what steps can people take that help with fairness?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing I'd say is that fairness remains just a cutting edge area of research. There are many complex sources of unfairness. It's not possible to fully debias a system or guarantee its fairness. But there are at least a handful of concrete things that we can do today. The first and most important thing from my perspective is to always strive to have a diverse team working on building AI technologies. There's nothing better that you can do to solve for the diverse world in which we live is to bring a whole heap of different perspectives to the building of that system. So that is by far and away one of the most important things that you can do. Second, I'd say think deeply about the context in which your system is going to use. You don't want to have a mismatch between theory and practice. Third, I'd recommend that you're thoughtful and carefully curate the data sets that you use to test and train your models. The aim there is to try and reflect operational conditions as best as you can. And finally, there are some tools available today, including as part of Azure ML, that can help you to detect and mitigate certain types of bias. So I'd really encourage people to use those as much as possible. You know, there's no doubt that there's a lot of learning ahead of us on fairness issues generally, and it's going to be vital to share best practices. I'm incredibly supportive of the increased efforts underway at the moment among industry, academia, civil society, because I really do think we need to continue to double down on our progress when it comes to fairness.
Yeah, I just love that you're so open about this, the possibilities and the struggles and what you're still working on. In short, because we only have a few moments, what additional advice do you have for customers on fostering responsible AI within their organization?
Sure. I would say start with principles. You need a North Star to keep coming back to, and starting with a set of principles is how you do that, and making sure that they align to the values that your organization is all about. You then need to move to practices. I've talked today a little bit about how we've done that at Microsoft. Perhaps start with a couple of key domains. Start drilling into fairness and transparency and figure out what tangible steps you can take in order to advance those ends in your organization. As I said before, you know, these are hard challenges. We need people from diverse backgrounds working on them. But we also need to set roles and responsibilities. When you bring together people from a variety of different disciplines across different backgrounds, it's really important to have some governance in place so that you create a safe space for those sorts of discussions to take place and for them to be most productive. Finally, I'd say make sure you take near-term and longer-term views of the steps that you can take in this space. It's definitely a marathon, not a sprint. Increasingly, we understand the questions in this space. We don't have all the answers. So I think continuing to focus on buy-in and incremental steps and just being prepared to adapt and respond as the situation changes.
All right, great advice. Thank you so much, Natasha. It was a fascinating conversation.
Thanks, Angela.